All right, everybody, welcome on back. Continuing along, of course, our Monday afternoon here live in the Cyber Group trading room, and of course, streaming across social media, Facebook and YouTube Live. Welcome on back, guys, for our afternoon meeting. Let's get a quick sound check just to begin. Make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear. My internet's been a bit jumpy as well, so fingers and toes crossed here, folks. Great to see everybody, all of our students live in the Cyber Group room, loud and clear. Perfect. So from a couple of us that the audio is a little light, so hopefully I fixed that issue. Great to see everybody, though, like I said. So let's hop into it, though. We ended up seeing the Dow make a huge squeeze up shortly after the market opened up. We ended up seeing a bit of a jump early in pre-market, but shortly, like I'd said, after the open, we ended up seeing the Dow make a huge run up. I mean, pretty much just about a 400-point jump from low to high, but including the 100, 200-point, overnight move, or over the weekend move, rather. We ended up seeing a very strong run altogether across the day, didn't we? But of course, it's not just the Dow. We ended up seeing stocks not just like this EQ here up 390+% still, making a huge run going into this afternoon. I'll tell you, we've had like 3 or 4 of these already so far today, whether they're, about 390% or not. I mean, they've made just some very strong extended trends across the day. So, without further ado, let's hop into it. I have some news here to drop across the board, across the social feeds and across the trading room here. So just give me a quick sec. The EQ trade is what I want to talk about first, though. Of course, that's what's on the screen here. So this morning, 5:30 in the morning, EQ news came out. It was in relation to a clinical trial for COVID vaccine, I think, just in relation to patients reducing mortality. Not just that, of course. I mean, fantastic news. So we ended up seeing a very strong run up early in pre-market for a stock like this that's up, the 100, 200% early on. We were expecting the pullback. So, it ended up just doing that. It took a sweet amount of time to make this type of run up, but obviously it paid off if you were following it right going into the afternoon. But yeah, the EQ kind of caught us off guard here, at least. This ended up popping up on our scanners going into the early afternoon once this ended up breaking its high of the day. Of course, from there, though, there was plenty more to get on this trade. Still seems to be a little bit more going into the afternoon as well. So for a stock like EQ that's, still holding near the highs going into the end of the day like this, I mean, for as much of a run up as we have, you'd like to think that we might not see as strong of a run going into the afternoon. And that's what I would normally say myself. Given this type of trend, though, and seeing this still hold around the 16 area, 1650 is the high of the day. Looks like it's just like seconds away from breaking through that right now. I mean, easily we're going to put this on our list, not to say it's been an easy trade across the last 30 or so minutes. Off the pop, off the trend, and surprisingly enough, I don't think this stock has been halted once today. Perhaps that'll be for the afternoon coming up. But yeah, I mean, hopefully this ends up making the strong push over 1650. Likely have some large volume on the offer there, and figuring every 50 cents for there to be a new level as well. All right, so EQ is number one. I just wanted to go over that one to begin. And of course, there were a couple of others, like I'd said. One that a lot of us are pretty familiar with, whether you're in this trading room or not, because we've been following the stock just here in these meetings across the last month and a half, 2 months. I mean, really much longer. But VXRT, we ended up seeing more news come out from the afternoon on this trade, which led to a huge pop. But of course, going into the open, this was on our morning watch list. Ended up taking, a little amount of time to consolidate underneath the pre-market high, underneath the resistance that we had at the time, pretty much at 9. Well, shortly prior to 10 o'clock, and pretty much right at 10 o'clock, ended up making that big pop, popped over at 9, ended up making a very clean run up to 10, ended up consolidating higher and slower, at least going into the late morning. And of course, like I'd said, news came out going into the afternoon, which led to that huge squeeze up, that huge pop. So I know that one of us in the trading room wrote it just a bit earlier, but VXRT, Vaxert raises 90 million estimate in gross proceeds through at the market facility. And that's just the news snippet I have for you guys here. I'm going to post that across the board. There we go. So we've been killing it on this trade, the VXRT, whereas the EQ, I will say the EQ going into the afternoon, definitely going to keep this on our list. The spread's been a bit funky at times, fluctuating anywhere from, a penny to 2 pennies up to, 10, 12 cents at times. The VXRT is a little less like that. It still jumps, penny to 3 pennies here at some points, but the order book's a little bit more liquid. And at least prior to that last squeeze here, we were doing really well on this steady run up. We saw a huge pop over 12. hit 1350 and lower highs since. So of course, as you can see, it's on its way back down towards the next support at 12 bucks. Next support after that, 1150. From there, 11. Not even just based on the axis increments on the chart, but it's just based on where the volume is filled and traded from earlier today. So yeah, VXRT, much like EQ, we're definitely going to just put on our list going into the afternoon. Still holding fairly strong near its highs, although I am not as much as EQ. This one's tailing off a bit further, but in relation to its move, though, still very strong going into the afternoon, I think. All right, so we had the EQ, we had the VXRT. The last news headline I got for you guys here so far during this meeting is the ECOR trade. I want to get to that. So ECOR came out with news earlier this pre-market, 7 o'clock, FDA emergency use for one of its drugs, Gammacore. Just so we ended up seeing a very similar move early on in pre-market, at least. Huge squeeze up from 7 o'clock, ended up continuing going into the morning. Fausto already ran this move over with you guys already, went over this at least, I should say. Going into the open, same thing happened as that last one from that EQ trade. Ended up tailing off at the market open, pulled back towards 260-ish, 270. Ended up popping afterwards. So to go into that trade, at least here, after that pullback, we ended up seeing the ECOR trade find some support around 270, 275. Ended up making a nice squeeze up, but failed to break cleanly over the high of the day. We were looking at for resistance here around 3. So once this ended up kind of making the squeeze up from 3, we were pretty interested, but came right back down. A nasty, nasty shake. I ended up getting stopped out here for, it was a tiny loss. They call it a scratch, but a 4-cent loss. It was in from 3. I was expecting a lot more here. So, I wasn't really expecting this big drop here coming up, but ended up tailing off from that point and never really presented a clean buying opportunity since. So for right now, this ECOR trade, we're definitely going to scratch off the list. The news headline. There we go. I just wanted to paste that in the chat board for everybody. The ECOR, just post that. All right, so 2 of them at least we'll keep an eye on going into the close. We've caught others at least as well. We'll continue to scan through the percent gainers and losers list. We'll see what else we have going into the afternoon, guys. Also, by the end of this meeting as well, I just want to give a quick announcement to all of us here, just streaming across the social feeds. And for all of us in the trading room, you guys know the schedule with what's going on tomorrow, but we'll do a quick little housekeeping before we finish up. So YMI, WIMI, we went over the first 2 already. WIMI number 3. This one's not looking that great as far as trend. Obviously, given the huge squeeze earlier on this pre-market from Friday's move, it ended up popping shortly after the market opens. Now, you could see on this trade, see if I could zoom in here a bit. Yeah, you could see just the amount of times this stock was halted on the way up, on the way down, on the way up, and then, pretty much since, it's just not really made a clean pop. So for right now, I'm not really as interested in a trade like this. We did really well on this trade back from Friday of last week to close things out. But like I'd said then, and I'll tell you guys just to reiterate, when a stock is making this type of squeeze up, whether it's all-time highs or not, even VXRT, ALT from last week, hell, even NEO, the order book will begin to thin out a little bit. The spread will open up. So if WIMI had, a 3-cent, 5-cent, 8-cent spread back on Friday, what do you think it was going to happen or have, once the market opened up today when it was 20 bucks, 21 bucks, and the order book was that much, more spread out, that much more thin. So right now you're seeing a 1-cent spread, 5-cent spread, but given the size of the orders on the book, that could open up to 15, 20 cents, just like that. And without any sense of trend, albeit it is holding support, you might say, after such a nice squeeze up the last 2 days, I would only expect this stock to continue to drop off. And if it continues to run up, then, man, God bless. I would love to have egg on my face. I would love to be wrong with that. But typically, and I say that just for some of our newly enrolled members here, new students joining us, we don't try and follow a stock like this day over day over day. We can only take what the stock can give us. So with that, I'm not going to put this on our main list going into the afternoon. My expectation would be to see this, tank going into the afternoon today. And if not today, then perhaps tomorrow. And if I'm wrong, then we'll try and hop on it quick enough. But yeah, we'll see if there's others here. VXRT, already on our list. We'll just check back on that one. It looks like it crashed. Whew. Oh, man. Holy smokes, that was a fast drop. It ended up dropping at the time. I told you guys it was making lower highs, ended up tailing off down to 12. It already held 12 support once already, so you had to have expected this to, crash, but right back down to the next support 1150 and right back up she is. So, hey, this trade looks pretty good at this point. Looks like they may have took some stops out from 1150, but if this could hold support, higher lows around the 12 area, I think that could be a good opportunity to try and get back in. All right, an old fan favorite here, or an old name here at least. We've traded on and off in the room. Boxel, BOXL. You can see on the daily chart some funky moves up and down on this trade. So we've followed this more off than on over the years. But any sort of news that's come out, we followed it. Looks like back in 2018, so a huge squeeze up here. Yeah, I mean, right now, hey, the order book is very, liquid, very tight spread, lots of larger orders on the ECN book here. So in relation to WIMI, this one definitely is on the polar opposite. But yeah, I mean, hey, Boxel will put on our list. Nice steady trend. It's testing that $1.50 resistance. All right, we got a few of these small cap stocks that I've seen here before, guys. Like, yeah, ANY. I haven't seen the chart just until right now, so it's kind of near the highs going into the afternoon. The spread's huge, though. I mean, 17-cent spread for a $5 stock. I mean, I'd rather pass. I'd rather see if there's anything looking better. I mean, nice trend. It's kind of near the highs. I do like that, but perhaps there's more to this move, and perhaps we'll catch it tomorrow. I mean, perhaps the order book will be more liquid tomorrow morning even. All right, DLPN Dolphin Entertainment. We've seen the stock over the last week, so back on the percent gainer side here, up 40%. Just made a pop up to 185, 185 high. Right back down. The volume started to crap out here for such a big move down and then back up. And given the move that it had back from last week and even back from Thursday of last week, I feel like the same thing to be said. I mean, I like this run up here, but I don't expect to see continuation on a trade like this. Oof, this is a buyout. Definitely BYFT. Fausto called this one out earlier, the HTBX, during our live audio commentary inside our trading room. Fausto had called this one out. It was a nice call out, level 1 stock, tight spread, much like you could see here, and still holding pretty damn strong. So this one definitely on our list near the top. All right, this MBY trade, I don't have the news to copy and paste here, guys. And as you can see now, we're not going to follow it this afternoon. But this is one that I want to take a little bit of time just to go over quickly here. So popped off of news early in pre-market, ended up dumping off a bit and kind of floating around going into the open. So it's not to buy right away. We're going to look to try and buy once the stock breaks through a big level on the way up. So for a trade like the MBY, oh, geez, all right, this thing's taking a sweet time there. For a trade like MBY here, you could see once this ended up breaking underneath 150, but then through 150 on the way up, that's the money entry right there. So once this popped over 150, it was a pretty stressless trade. It was a really nice run up. I thought this would even push a bit higher. I ended up getting out around that 190 area, as Fausto did as well. Take the money and run, right? So the next resistance on that trade was at 2. And I was setting myself up to try and get in if it were to make a move up towards that 2 again, but failed to do so. Ended up coming right back down. And at this point, yeah, definitely going to avoid this one going into the afternoon here. All right, Fausto said to keep an eye on this ANTE from earlier today. It ended up making a nice run up at the time and dumped off, much like a lot of these do, much like that last one, right? The MBY rather. We're gonna scratch that at least off our list going into the afternoon. Maybe keep an eye on this going into the rest of this week. If not tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. I'm sure at some point a stock like this will pop back up on the gainer side here. KOPN. Ooh, missed out on this run. Low 138, hit a high of 194. As you can see, tailing off right now. Man, I wish I saw this earlier. We're having fun on VXRT and the EQ trade. I say that most importantly because this stock is shortable. So when this is crapping out the other way, this would have been a good short here at the time, at least from around 180, it seems like. Hindsight. Yeah, for right now, at this point in the trade, I'm not ready to jump on this just yet. All right, let's see what else we have. UAVS, nice little move from earlier today. It ended up making a sharper run over 250 compared to what I thought it was going to do. Topped off at 275. Here's ALT. Jesus, I didn't even look at this stock in the pre-market this morning. I know that Fausto was talking about this one earlier on today, but I was more focused on the cheaper stocks, loading up on more shares of them at least. Man, this thing squeezed up to 34 bucks, 33 bucks. It's just like that last one, the Wimmy. Holy smokes, came right back down, tanked at the open. You can see it's building up right now going into the afternoon, and that's where I like it here. So yeah, ALT. You'll see if this can make a second or a new run up, at least going into the end of the day. Not much on the order book here so far. Looks like a bunch of volume filled off 27 and 26.90. I mean, looks like a collective here, but at 27, major resistance here that was filled. That was at 232, so pretty much right at the time we started this meeting. So there's the pop over 27. When it crashed, it ended up holding the yellow prints here on time and sales roughly around 26.80 and squeezing back up for right now, 27.50, assumed to be the next level here. All right, just want to check in on a couple more others here, guys. On the gainer side, we'll hop over to the losers list. Market's up big, but we'll see if there's anything on the loser side there for right now. mRNA, I mean, albeit a little bit pricey, this thing ended up making a huge run up from Friday's news, or Thursday's news, rather. I'm sorry. Thursday, we had this on our afternoon watch list. News came out at the time, and at least since it exploded. So, yeah, going into the afternoon, thing ended up making a nice bounce off 70, essentially from 70 bucks. You can see drop down 71, crashed under it, moved back through it. And you can see for the meantime, moving up seemingly towards that 75. So Moderna, yeah, mRNA will add to our list here as well. Ooh, we got a bunch more here on the gainer side. Damn. APHA near the high of the day. That's a pot stock. We'll check in right away on Tilray. Tilray not really doing that much, down 3%. Anytime I see a pot stock up near the highs like that, I just instantly look at the others. So Tilray not really having that great of a day. The others, I guess, not really doing much as well either. All right, I don't know if it's news specific to APHA, if it's earnings or if it's anything else otherwise, but this thing's pretty strong going into the afternoon. All right. New high of the day, broke above resistance just from the chart, roughly at 490. Next resistance on the offer here at 5. All right, so we'll credit that to good timing. We'll see what else we have here. NVAX, this one's pretty expensive. INO, this thing's been a monster today. It'd go from 23-ish all the way up to 28.50 high before dumping off. For a move this big, there's still some range to see this make a dollar move, 75-cent move going into the close. Ended up just bouncing roughly around that 25.50 price. Squeezed up a buck, as you could see. Yeah, it's hard to avoid a stock like INO just given the range that it's had today. So we'll keep this on our watch list. Doesn't mean that we're going to trade it necessarily, but as of right now, just made a really sharp pop or bounce from the 25.50. We'll look to see if this could perhaps hold a higher low from around 26. Kind of seems like it started to here a bit, just squeezing up, but I feel like it might pull back and then begin to hold some further support. All right, guys, if there's anything else that looks good that's up, just let me know here in the chat board. That goes across the board. I want to hop over to the loser side here while I can. CLSN, this thing's been, or at least I should say earlier, not right now, but earlier today, it was actually a nice dead cat bounce of sorts. Ended up, dropping off early in pre-market. News came out in relation to like a phase 3 trial. I think they're like discontinuing the study, but ended up shortly after the market opening up, dropped off to a buck. and then from there pushed up pretty nicely. We ended up getting in on this trade. I wish I could say right off the bottom. We ended up jumping in roughly around the 115 level once it ended up popping, and then holding a higher low here. I felt a little bit safer with my position, so I held on. Ended up running up very nicely up at the time, up towards 145, and as you can see right now, flattened out going into the afternoon. So this is exactly where you would hear Fausto say at this point in the trade, after they made its dead cat bounce, it squeeze up, it's not worth looking at. They're not going to come back immediately, guys. So, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps Wednesday, I don't know. We'll keep this in mind, but it's not to say we're going to jump on this trade right away. We have to follow the momentum here, so to say, on a trade like this. So from the market open, it was a really nice run up after the drop to 105, 104. But for right now, the stock is really flat. Stock that's flat, but this thing ended up tailing off quite a bit after the open. GRTS, oncology stock, in the pre-market ended up getting crushed early on. I don't have the news on this trade. Most importantly, though, the stock was shortable. So if you're looking for a dead cat bounce, again, you're not going to just jump onto the trade right when the market opens. If a stock like this ends up dropping off, perhaps there's some room for a pullback or a squeeze up. Looks like around $5. That was roughly around the spot to do it from. I ended up taking a scratch trade on this. I ended up then taking like a 5 or 7 cent profit. And then after that point, ended up dropping off and holding resistance perfectly. So ended up creating a really good short opportunity. Dropped all the way down to $4. I left a college tuition's worth of money on the table here on this short. I only took about 15 or so cents just once I had re-entered on the short side. And the thing ended up continuing to drop off much further compared to where I thought it was really going to drop down to. And man, this thing's just holding flat around 4. So it's still near the lows. That part I do like, whereas normally for a stock that's on the gainer side, that's up 50, 60 plus percent, it's near the highs of the day. I like seeing that going into the end of the afternoon. Same thing here with the low of the day, but it's just a little slow, a little heavily traded given how much volume it normally trades. So for right now, I'll keep this on our side list. Definitely want to keep in mind, though, going into the rest of this week, though, I do like this one. The fact that it is shortable, at least there. Mark's asking, Josh, how many kids do you have to put through college with all of these tuitions you leave on the table? That's a good question, Mark. Fortunately, none right now. I don't have any kids. At least I'm not ready for that just yet. But the more I do that, then perhaps that money should be going somewhere, right? All right, NXTC here. Man, this thing ended up dropping off quite a bit as well. This was more after 9:30. Once the market opened up, complete drop off. Kind of light volume. I mean, your largest spikes of the day are right after 10 o'clock. 100,000 share spikes, probably some market prints that were filled. Really flat right now, so that part I'm not too interested in. I like the fact that it's near the lows, but the volume is also kind of spotty for right now. All right. I think that might just about do it, guys. We have a decent list. Solo got a hit two today, says Peter from YouTube. Yeah, and still dropping off. Well, bouncing here, but dropping off most recently. Yeah, I mean, hey, this is a stock that's been on our side list, of course, given the run up over the last week and a half. So I've had my eye on this morning in pre-market, but compared to the others, I just figured it wasn't one I was jumping at right away at 9:30. Once we end up seeing this just dump off at the market open, like I say with a lot of these, they have to make the bounce pretty quickly and begin to build support, run back up, or otherwise it's not as just worth the opportunity to look at or buy and look at this thing. I mean, tailed off going into the mid to late morning, early afternoon, and for all of that time watching a stock like this, I mean, if you're able to short it, God bless, but otherwise, only to see this break a new low and tank afterwards. So, yeah, I mean, hey, we'll keep this in mind this week too. Perhaps going into tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll see this make a new squeeze back up. But yeah, for right now, I'll pass on this trade. CLNE, it's shortable. It's at the lows, but for as much as it's looking good here, we ended up shorting this across the last 2 days, right? Thursday and Friday of last week, after it ended up making its squeeze up towards, essentially high of the day at the time, 340-ish. Once we saw this begin to turn over, we ended up shorting this on the way down. And the following day, Friday of last week, we did the same thing. So yeah, same thing with this one. I feel like at some point this will make, a new squeeze back up. Not to say for you guys to buy this right now, banking on that to happen, tomorrow, but I'll keep this in mind. But for right now, at least this afternoon, it just either way, it's not really worth it. I don't really see like the buying opportunity just yet here. If it pops from this point, I'd say it's just more fortune than anything. All right. Pat says EQ about to be halted, hopefully on the way up. Yep. Wow. Really nice pop, Pat. There we go. Let's see on the 15-second chart even. I mean, really, it broke over 1550 and took off like a missile. But I mean, you could say the same thing with 16 if you left a stop limit order open, instant money. On a trade like this, though, I don't think this has broken all-time highs yet. It only has a little ways to go. New IPO back from 2018, or not new, but from 2018 IPO. All-time high was set back on November 23rd, 1969. So, I mean, I'll tell you, it's about $1.50 away. It's not too far. That's about maybe a minute and a half's worth of work, right? So, yeah, keep a good eye on this EQ trade, certainly leading into the end of the afternoon here. All right, guys. Anything else? VSLR support at 17, says Chuck. I mean, it's a tradable stock. Don't get me wrong. Trading kind of light volume per minute. Yeah, I'm going to pass on this one for right now, Chuck. Jerry calling out the MVIS trade. Yeah, from earlier today, made a nice squeeze up. Fausto, I think, called that one out. I think that was one he had called out. If it wasn't MVIS, it was another one as well. But this one ended up making a nice move shortly after the open. Dumped off here, though. Checking on space really quickly. We'll check in on SPAC, SPAQ. For as much as space dumped off earlier today, it is beginning to squeeze. Oh, I got to go back to 1 minute chart. There we go. I can kind of put space, SPCE here in the same category as INO. In the same category as like VXRT and ALT even, just given the range up and down today. And, here in the case of SPCE, it just dumped off quite a bit. So strong bounce. Hopefully it can continue to build support, higher lows, making a move through that 20 level going into the afternoon. So I don't mind putting this on our list still. All right, SPAC just dumping off here. Ooh, it is shortable. Huh, that's pretty interesting. This wasn't shortable back on Friday of last week. All right, so this caught me off guard. But yeah, I mean, SPAQ will put on our list here going into the end of the day. Peter says, spread not very tight, order book rather empty. I've seen worse. And SPAC was a lot worse back on Thursday and Friday of last week, running up and breaking all-time highs in the process. So right now, I mean, I think the spread, it's fluctuating a bit, but fairly contained. Probably focus more on 50-cent levels and whole numbers, bouncing off that 16 level rather strongly. But definitely good call, though. I like that, Peter. All right, guys, I think we're good. I don't even need to go back to like the ANYs, the KOPNs, etc. We have a pretty good list going into the end of this day. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right, 10 total. Now, for all of us here live in the trading room, you guys know what's coming tomorrow, all right? And we don't do this really often at all. I think that we're probably going to do this now like once every like 4 or 6 months even, maybe like 2 or 3 times a year at most. So if you guys can see on the banner on the social streams, Facebook, YouTube Live, you guys see that on the bottom. Tomorrow, we are hosting a live workshop tomorrow called Traders Talk. Now, this is something that is part of our live trading room, something that's part of our live curriculum. Keep in mind that we tend to do this every week, every Tuesday. It's a more in-depth, advanced workshop where we'll have a chance to break down a lot of these trades that I just scanned for you guys, and perhaps a couple of others as well, but more of the hows and whys, not just, a 5 or 10 minute breakdown, hearing me talk a mile a minute. So here in Traders Talk, we'll have a much better chance to break down everything. So we're going to do this probably like 2 or 3 times a year. That's really it. So for anyone tuning in on the live streams, make sure that you guys register. Make sure that you guys subscribe, rather, to our YouTube channel so you don't miss it. We're going to begin that live right at 11:05 Eastern time tomorrow, guys. And for all of us in the trading room, you guys know the deal. Same time, same place. You guys don't need to go anywhere. We're going to host it right here in the live trading room as well, much like we do these meetings. All right, guys, we're going to post and tweet the list right now. And aside from that, if you have any other questions regarding Cyber Trading University, just make sure that you guys contact us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and otherwise one of our education advisors will reach out with more details. All right, guys, nice start to this week. Nice start to this day. Let's try and close it out just as strong. Take care.